Anyway, so they go on a girls' trip to Italy, and
Woo.
tragically, they can't get home because their planes are like hit by winds or something. Um, I think it's a bit different.
Aviation.
Yeah, something happens. Natalie's like meant to be going home. Caroline is meant to be going off to more places in Italy to live the high life as she does. Natalie, because the plane has been like cancelled and it was non-refundable, literally can't afford another way home. And
Isn't that
Carol,
terrifying? I
I
would be
know,
so scared. She said
I
like
would
3
be.
flights
And
had
now
been.
listen, the amount of situations in this article where Natalie gets put in a like my nightmare is
She's like the Meryl Streep and Lemony Snicket, where it's
she
like
literally
everything
is.
you think could go wrong does go
It's
wrong.
her life is literally a series of unfortunate events. Throughout this article, it's like, oh, for God's sake, you poor girl. Like, no wonder I would be furious with Caroline.
Yeah.
I'd be like, for God's sake, I'm literally having the worst time of my life. Anyway, so she can't get back, and then Caroline actually does something very nice and pays for a flight home for Natalie.
Yeah.
And Natalie, obviously feeling a bit bad about this, can't pay her back and says, do you know what? I'll edit those long ass posts you put on Instagram, or I'll write a couple. Would that work? And Caroline is like, yeah, CBA, so that's perfect.
I'm so lazy and off
Yeah.
my face. Of
Well,
course
also,
you can do
she's like
this.
on holiday in Instagram. She's on holiday in Instagram, which essentially she was.
Yeah.
No, she's on holiday in Italy. She's trying to like. No one really wants to be doing work on holiday, so I kind of understand why she'd be like, over this summer period, you can be Caroline. And it's not the worst thing to begin with, and it seems to work well for this small amount of time.
Yeah.
But the time that it doesn't work well is when the summer ends. Caroline's gone off to Cambridge, and her apartment is unoccupied, just left sitting there. I don't know what's like. Had they bought this West Village apartment? Are they that rich?
I think they must have.
Okay, so
Or maybe it was was it a grandparents' apartment or something?
no idea. But it's a nice apartment, and Natalie is living in a mess.
Squalor.
Yeah, literally. And so she just says to Caroline, listen, your apartment, no one's using it. Is there any chance I could live there? I'll pay you reduced rent,
Yeah.
but then I'll continue doing these Instagram posts for you. And initially, Caroline is like, yeah, that sounds great. Which I'm going to say now, do not get into this sort of situation with your friend.
No.
You shouldn't have a friend that's like has a position of power over you, and also like, and it comes down to money. Because at any point, Caroline can be like, you could have a fight with her, and she could be like, yeah, you can't live there anymore.
Yeah, she could. She's your landlord, so she could just kick you out.
And that's kind of what happens.
Yeah. Well, it changes to, oh, actually, we need the money for an Airbnb.
Yep.
But you can be the maid, and I'll pay you to look after it for. Yep. And I think it becomes like a pride thing for Natalie, and she's like, I don't want to be Caroline Calloway's maid.
No.
Like how? And I think there's no. I think. Well, I mean, I don't know what it would be like to be in that situation, but I think if it was me, I'd probably agree to that situation. I would probably be like, yeah, she can pay me, and then it's. I mean,
of course,
but then not from a friend. I think I don't think you want your friend to be like, you can just clean up after my horrible apartment and make it all nice for the Airbnb people.
Also, my first thought was like, I don't know. I was like, for a minute, I was like, maybe she's overreacting a bit. Like, if it's just being a maid, she needs the money. She's trying to live in New York. Just take it.
Yeah.
But like when you see all the other jobs that Natalie does, it's not like she was being picky on the job front. I think she like works as a gardener or something.
Yeah,
she's done this whole degree. She wants to write, and she's doing all these like ridiculous jobs. So it's not that she was being picky about jobs. I think it's just the aspect of she turns up to Caroline's life having had like an awful experience the night before. She turns up to the apartment, and it's just been left in an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And I think it's that moment where she's like, I'm not just being a maid. Like,
to you.
I'm not, essentially, I'm not just going to clean up your mess. And I think this is like one of the first times that Natalie actually just stands up for herself. And Caroline's okay with it. She's like, yeah, fine. But they do kind of seem to drift apart for a bit then.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, oh, not really talking. Which, to be fair, it's kind of hard to uphold a friendship when one of you is in a completely different country, and I know that and I know there was social media that you could talk over at this point, but wasn't great. Like, it was still like early days, so like the easiest way to talk to people was over the phone, which is obviously going to cost you a lot of money,
Yeah.
and that's not great. So the next instance of them getting back together, getting the gang back together, is when things start to get very messy, and Caroline has been offered a book deal, and she says to Natalie, I want you to help me out here.